Tonight, shock over the arrest of the former SNP chief executive. We have political reaction and hear from Nicola Sturgeon after her husband is charged in connection with embezzlement of party funds.
It's incredibly difficult, but that's not the main issue here.
Also making the headlines, the autistic woman who spent time in a psychiatric ward after being misdiagnosed as bipolar. She's backing a new Hollywood bill aimed at protecting neurodivergent people.
Brendan Rodgers says Celtic can't soften up after Rangers dropped points in the title race.
We're live at Ayr Racecourse where the atmosphere is electric as we build up to tomorrow's Scottish Grand National.
I'm Courtney Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has described allegations against her husband as an incredibly difficult time. The SNP's former chief executive, Peter Murrell, was arrested and charged by police with embezzlement of funds from the party yesterday.
The current First Minister says many people will be shocked at the development. It comes as part of an investigation into the SNP finances known as Operation Branchform. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
Look, this is a difficult time. I don't think I'm revealing any secrets in saying that, but there's absolutely nothing I can say given the circumstances.
Hours after her husband was charged with embezzlement, the former First Minister appealed for privacy outside the couple's home. Peter Murrell had spent around 10 hours in police custody following his arrest yesterday morning.
It's incredibly difficult, but that's not the main issue here, so I can't say any more. I'm not going to say any more.
It was just after 8 o'clock last night Peter Murrell arrived back home. He'd been questioned as part of Operation Branchform, which is investigating SNP finances.
These are serious developments, and as per the police statement, we now know that an individual has been charged, Peter has been charged, where the allegation of embezzlement from party funds, and that's a really serious matter indeed. Many people in the SNP, right across Scottish politics, will be shocked by the news.
Mr Murrell had previously been arrested just over a year ago. Officers also raided the SNP headquarters in Edinburgh. Nicola Sturgeon and the party's former treasurer, Colin Beattie, were also arrested. All three were released without charge. They remain under investigation.
Well, the First Minister, Hamza Yusuf, is correct to say that this is a very serious development. The fact that Peter Murrell has been charged in connection with the embezzlement of SNP funds is obviously a critical moment in this investigation. And that's why SNP figures, both staff and politicians, should now recommit to full transparency.
Peter Murrell has now quit the SNP. He was its chief executive for 22 years.
In Scots law, the charge of embezzlement is about somebody who's in a position of trust that has oversight of property and money and uses that resource for an improper purpose, which is not, they don't have the authority to do. So essentially it's a form of theft, but the difference is the person is in a position of trust that is looking over the resource.
A report will now go to prosecutors to determine what happens next.
And Ewan joins us now. So Ewan, a challenging week for the First Minister and the SNP.
Yeah, and the First Minister has faced several challenging weeks in his relatively short time in office. This, though, must be one of the toughest. The climb down on climate targets yesterday, criticism over the cash review on gender identity services, and then this, an embezzlement charge against someone who was such a senior figure within the party. The focus now switches to the legal process. Prosecutors will have to go through this report from the police when they receive it and determine whether this case should proceed any further. If they do decide to take it on further, then Mr Murrell would appear in court at a future date. If not, then the matter would be over for him. This investigation has been hanging over the SNP for several years now. Members want to see a quick resolution, but the timing of that is out of their hands.
Ewan, thank you for that.
An autistic woman who spent time in a psychiatric ward after being misdiagnosed as bipolar for 10 years has told STV News far more education and understanding of the condition is needed. Ailsa Lindsay from Glasgow is backing a new bill at Holyrood aimed at improving outcomes for autistic and neurodivergent people and people with learning disabilities.
Campaigners say having legislation to strengthen their rights is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
From a young age, Ailsa says she always knew she was different. She was bullied at school and later misdiagnosed as bipolar.
I was in a psychiatric ward and I was just given that diagnosis and given antipsychotics, and for the next 10 years I was on lithium, very serious medication. You need blood tests all the time. And I was in psychiatric wards 5 times when I shouldn't have been. And the health board just didn't listen to me and neglected me really. It's a lot of trauma from it. The bipolar diagnosis just never felt right.
Eventually she went private for treatment and was diagnosed as autistic.
It's just quite emotional seeing like all my behaviours, the way I think, that there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not mentally ill. I'm just me. I'm just autistic. There's just so much misunderstanding of what autism is, that it's like an illness, that it's a deficit that only affects men. We need a better understanding in society. It's something to celebrate. Autistic people have the lowest demographic in disability in work. Only 29% are in work. So we need to change everything really to celebrate autistic people.
She and charities such as the National Autistic Society and Enable are backing a new bill at Holyrood, which would create a commissioner to protect and promote the rights of autistic people and people with learning disabilities. For Heather, this proposed legislation can't come soon enough.
It's to hold people to account for the services, like if they're not getting like healthcare or employment, so it's really important we get this commissioner and it gets put through the Parliament.
The bill was an SNP manifesto commitment in 2021 and has cross-party support.
Well, I'm a mum of 3 teenage kids and I have autistic kids as well. So I've faced similar challenges. My kids are absolutely fantastic, but I've faced quite similar challenges. I know it's taken time. I think the most important thing is that we're getting this right and that we're keeping the people who are affected by this bill right at the centre of the decision making on it. I would urge people to get their views in, to contribute to that consultation because the bill isn't written yet.
This is about the fundamental rights of everyone who has a learning disability, autism or neurodiversity, and I think it's about, we've seen many breaches of people's rights over many years. We've made a lot of progress as a country, if you look at some of the big steps forward we've taken on ensuring that people are included, more included and involved in life. But what's clear is that people's rights are being breached when it comes to things like healthcare, housing and access to services.
A public consultation on the bill ends on Sunday. Charities are urging as many people as possible to have their voices heard. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
An aid charity has sent its biggest convoy of vehicles to Ukraine to help frontline fighters and civilians. The founder of Jeeps for Peace says that Scotland is now one of the biggest providers of aid in Europe to Ukraine through the convoy system.
50 volunteer drivers are currently on their way to the border of Poland and Ukraine, with many crossing into the west of the country to donate children's clothes, food supplies and the vehicles themselves. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
Setting off on their biggest mission yet, more than 50 drivers are embarking on a 6-day journey to deliver vital supplies. But it's not just food and medical aid that's being sent. Many of these vehicles getting their last-minute checks are being donated to Ukrainians.
People of Ukraine, the military, need these vehicles. These vehicles are used for humanitarian purposes as well as extracting injured soldiers from the front line. I mean, we're talking about each of these vehicles quite literally saving lives.
81-year-old Sandy can no longer drive her car. She says donating it is the least she can do.
Sorry, it's very important. I think Ukraine is just in such a state
and it's we need to help them in every way we can.
Jeeps for Peace was also founded by Stuart, who was evacuated when the war broke out in Ukraine. He now lives in Edinburgh with his wife and children.
I have my mom there, and she doesn't want to leave. You know, as most of the elderly people of Ukraine, they just want to stay in their own homes and they don't want to leave. So it's not a nice feeling to know that anything can happen.
Stuart says continuing to recruit drivers is vital to keep momentum going. This is the 11th time Chris has made the long journey.
The smallest amount makes such a massive difference to everybody. Even just the tiniest smile, even sometimes, can just make a massive difference to everyone there.
For Andy, this will be his first mission.
It's amazing to see the different walks of life that came together to support the journey, and I'm sure we'll make a lot of good friends out of it.
Jeeps for Peace are now appealing for more volunteer drivers and as many more donations of cars as possible. So while there may be a long road ahead, those most in need know they're on this journey together. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News.
To other stories, and the delivery of one of Scotland's 2 long-awaited and over-budget Calmac ferries will be delayed by another 2 months. The Glen Sannox is now due to be handed over to Seamal by the end of July. The Chief Executive of Ferguson Marine Shipyard said the disappointing delay is due to issues with the ferry's fuel system.
Trains between London and Edinburgh will be disrupted tomorrow because of strike action by drivers. Members of ASLEF at LNER will walk out for the day in a dispute over terms and conditions.
A grandmother from Glasgow is among those on board a flotilla taking aid to Gaza in an attempt to break the Israeli blockade. 69-year-old Margaret Passetta is joining hundreds of volunteers on board and believes it's the right thing to do despite the dangers.
You know, it would be silly to say, oh yeah, it's great, I'm daring to go. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's something I myself feel, you know, for any office could have been born in Gaza, and to think that nobody cared about it is horrific. So, I mean, I'm 69-year-old now, so now's my time to go and try and help and give aid to people that are suffering.
Now, the lineup may have changed over the decades, but Rockers Gun are still going strong with over 30 years in the music business under their studded leather belts.
The band are back with new album Hombres and a tour to match. Gunn spoke to Gordon Smart for tonight's What's on Scotland about the part their brotherly bond played when drummer Paul became ill.
The nostalgia is a big thing, isn't it? But Paul, after everything you've been through in the last year or so, it does have an extra significance, doesn't it?
Oh, no question about it. I thought it was game over when I got a fairly serious, diagnosis with quite a poor prognosis. But it most certainly changed my life, and I appreciate everything so much more. Every show I do now, every song I play, you know, it's in my heart that this might not have been, and I'm so lucky.
How important was the camaraderie and brotherhood of these guys to get you through the darkest days? Did they make it a lot worse?
There's no doubt about it that when I came in with the bad news, you know, the initial response was, will you be able to do these drum tracks before you? And when I did recover, and there was euphoria of recovery and getting back in the studio to do the rehearsals for shows that were coming up. So it was a big deal to me, so I came in all, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Elaine, where's my drumsticks?
Where's my drumsticks? He says, they're there, up in the flight case, hang on a second. So he scurries off. There were none. So where the hell's one? Then they two are walking about, looking sheepish. On the previous acoustic tour, they had been selling my drumsticks on the merch stand. 3 times the price, say, on the basis that, you know, Paul's not coming back, right? It's game over.
Did you get a good price for them?
Absolutely. However, when I've recovered, all the people that have paid money for it are now looking for their money back because I've survived, still there.
And you can see that interview in full on What's on Scotland at 7 on STV.
To stories in the West, and a 25-year-old man is in hospital with serious injuries after a stabbing in Glasgow's Cross Hill area. The assault happened on Boyd Street in the early hours of this morning. Police say the inquiries are ongoing and are urging anyone with information to come forward. A serving Police Scotland officer stole a dead man's phones and iPad. Alan Snedden took the devices from a house he was called to following the death. The 46-year-old has been sentenced at Paisley Sheriff Court to a community payback order, including 140 hours of unpaid work. His behaviour has been branded a disgrace by the Force's Professional Standards Department, who have begun gross misconduct proceedings. A much-needed change, or are the plans too radical? That's the question South Lanarkshire Council want people in Hamilton to answer, with just 1 week to go until a public consultation in the town's centre future closes. The local authority are currently considering plans to completely overhaul the main hub and bring it into the modern era. Brandon Cook reports.
Regent Shopping Centre has been a mainstay in Hamilton Town Centre for almost 3 decades, but in recent years shops have gradually moved elsewhere. A third of units are empty. One now displays new proposals to redevelop the area, plans which include demolishing the centre to make way for 350 new homes. Such a move would force tenants and visiting stalls like Jackie's to go elsewhere.
I think that's awful. I really no, I think that's detrimental to Hamilton. To be honest, I think it'd be detrimental to anywhere to do away with.
Like many of our towns, it's once thriving core.
The proposals being considered by South Lanarkshire Council are split into 6 key areas. The plans say there's too much unused retail space. Instead, they want a better mix of hospitality, leisure and housing.
And the object of the exercise, I think, is to modernise it, to make it work more vibrantly for the 21st century. And I'm pretty confident at the end of the day this will be something which will be to the benefit of the retailers. They will work well with it, and they'll end up in a situation where their businesses are more vibrant.
A public consultation on the plans closes next Friday.
The Hamilton Shopping Centre's not got much in it now anyway, so it would be an improvement in what they've got.
This is where you meet up, this is where you come to see your pals, and so if they take it away, I mean, Hamilton will not have nothing really.
I don't know what like it'll look once it's demolished and rebuilt. I just hope it doesn't look an eyesore.
Of course, redeveloping Hamilton's town centre like this won't be cheap. The council haven't put a direct figure on it yet, but it's likely to cost multi-millions. And with local authority budgets so squeezed at the moment right across the country, some are questioning just how a project like this could be delivered.
I think it's a good thing that the council are looking at. Town centres, they do need looked at. People's shopping habits have changed. So I think that's in a positive slant. Whether they actually end up paying for it themselves, I think will come out in the wash after the consultation.
They're still very much at an early stage, with completion likely to be over a decade away. But the council are keen to hear views now to help shape the future of Hamilton. Brandon Cook, STV News.
To the sport, it's semi-final. We can get ahead of myself there.
Yes.
You carry on. I've messed that.
I'll
do
it, John. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Good evening to you all. Brendan Rodgers is urging his Celtic players to press home their advantage in the title race and says they can't afford to soften up after Rangers dropped 5 points in their last 2 games. The champions, who have a 3-point advantage at the top of the Premiership, face Aberdeen in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup tomorrow, while Rangers and Hearts go head-to-head in their last 4 ties. The Celtic players are 2 wins away from retaining the Scottish Cup, and their hopes of being crowned Premiership champions again were given a major boost this week after Rangers' defeat to Ross County and draw against Dundee. Brendan Rodgers says his team must remain focused.
Irrespective of what happens or what other results, the way it goes for other teams, we can only do our work. Because you can't soften up, especially at this time, just because another team might have drawn or lost or whatever, because that's irrelevant. It's not how you start the marathon, it's how you finish it. And for us, we're improving day by day. Long way to go in terms of the league. 5 games is 15 points is a lot of points to play for.
I don't think breathing space comes into it. You need to win 5 games if you want to win the title, and that's been no different from 2 weeks ago. We want to finish strongly in every league game, but as I said, all focus has really been on the Scottish Cup this week.
Across at Ibrox, after Dujon Sterling questioned the team's mentality, Philippe Clement played down the comments but accepts the reaction to Rangers' results can go from one extreme to the other.
This is a club where you always need to fight, and every point you lose, it's like you're going through hell. That's this world, and that's good. That's also the challenge, and it's now interesting to see which players can live in that way. But it's an exciting place to be, because on the other side, you can go also to heaven when you win games and when you win trophies.
Hearts going to Sunday's Scottish Cup semi-final against Rangers, having won 4 of their last 6 games. They lost to the Ibrox club in the last 4 of the League Cup earlier this season.
I think the last time at Hampden was probably the biggest thing, was we came away with probably a bit of regret. We felt as if we didn't really put a stamp on the game and we just kind of let it bypass us, and that was really disappointing, to be honest. So that was probably something we'll learn for the most, and hopefully we can go there. We've obviously worked on what we want to work on getting into the game, and hopefully we can go and implement that in the game and do it well.
The National Stadium is set as Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and Aberdeen vie for a place in the Scottish Cup final. Dennis, and here's a sight Andy Murray fans will be happy to see. The Scot is back on court practising less than a month after rupturing his ankle ligaments. As yet, no timescale has been put on his return to competitive action. Now, the Scottish Grand National takes place at Ayr Racecourse tomorrow with £200,000, the prize for the winner. The 2-day festival got underway today, and Ronnie Charters is there for us. Ronnie.
Raman, this is undoubtedly one of the biggest and best weekends in the Scottish sporting calendar. Grand National weekend will see over 30,000 people flock here to the sunny Ayrshire coast for this 2-day festival of racing, culminating tomorrow afternoon, of course, in the Scottish Grand National. 26 horses across 4 miles of racing looking to get their hands on this famous trophy. And as you can imagine, it's Ladies' Day today, and the fans here have been in fine voice. The familiar grandstand roars go up, signalling the start of Grand National weekend. The glitz and glamour of Ladies' Day at Ayr Racecourse brings with it great colour and atmosphere, with thousands of spectators all looking for a winner. Thank you and good luck.
He's rubbish. I won, so I've got the success. I mean, I won a tenner, but a win is a win.
I accidentally tried to put a bet in the last race and accidentally bet in a race in France and won 30 quid, so it's a good day.
Fabulous. Won the best hat and then just won the race out there.
Talk to us about the hat.
Well, I got it at Jules at Ayr. It was literally a last minute thing, and then they approached me and said, "Oh, would you go to the best hat?" And I was like,
That's class. Everyone's having a good mood. We're losing money, which is the only bad thing, but you know, drinks are flowing as you say. So,
cheers. And for the Scottish trainers and their horses, a huge day in store tomorrow on home soil as they look to write their names into the history books.
I mean, it would mean the world. You know, there's for a Scottish trainer to win the Scottish National it doesn't happen very often. Cinder's done it a couple of times, I think, but it's very it would be very, very special.
The Scottish National means so much to the Scottish people. It's just the enthusiasm, you know, it's the enthusiasm for having a day out, enthusiasm for the horses, the racing, the sport. I just love it, it's just the happiness.
And as ever, STV is the only place to be to watch the big race tomorrow, and the man in the centre of it all joins us now, Ed Chamberlain. Ed, thank you so much as ever for joining us here at Ayr. What a race we have for us tomorrow.
It's great, isn't it? It's a week on from the Grand National itself, which was a terrific race. I've been at Newmarket this week for the Craven, but coming here is just something completely and utterly different. It has a certain magic about it.
And in terms of the Scottish crowd, what makes us so special?
You know how to party. You like to have a bet on the big race, but you also give the warmest, friendliest, noisiest welcome of anywhere we go. We all love coming here for so many different reasons, and they know how to enjoy themselves. Ayr Gold Cup, Scottish Grand National are ringed in my diary as must-go-to events.
So the stage is set, the punters are ready, as the eyes of the racing world fall on the Ayrshire coast to see who will be crowned the winner of the Scottish Grand National. Ronnie Charters, STV News, in Ayr.
And finally, ahead of Glasgow Warriors' match against Sharks at Scotstoun tonight, Rory Dard says there's a real belief within the squad they can win this season's United Rugby Championship. The Warriors are second in the table, and with 5 games to play, Franco Smith's side are closing in on a home quarter-final in the playoffs.
I think the performances in these games built up to the playoffs is massive. The performance in the quarters or the semis or the final shouldn't just start then. You have to build belief going into it, and I think we've got 5 games to sort of do that. I think every performance, not just the result, but every performance and the build-up to that matters.
And that's all your sport tonight, folks. Have a great weekend. See you again next week.
And now Sean's here with the weather.
A spell of wows will gradually settle into a scattering of traditional tapas. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Hello there. Well, remember, it's low pressure that brings us unsettled weather, and of course we've had that now for several weeks, but this weekend, look at that lovely high pressure over the UK. Here comes the but. We've got a weather front just to the north of us this weekend, just annoyingly dangling into that high, and that does mean we'll see a bit more cloud coming in, certainly during tomorrow afternoon. The possibility of some very light showers maybe by tomorrow evening, but largely for us here, central and western parts, we're going to have the best chance of hanging on to the dry and the bright weather through much of the weekend. Overnight tonight, plenty of clear skies, lovely sunny end to the day. Clear skies tonight. It will be a chilly night, especially across South Lanarkshire, Dumfries and Galloway and the borders, with a wee touch of frost. So tomorrow morning, a chilly start to the day, plenty of sunshine. If you've got plans for a washing tomorrow out in the line, hopefully it won't be too bad. It will cloud over in the afternoon though, so sunny skies in the morning, clouding over in the afternoon. But I still expect we'll hang on to the best of the sunshine around Renfrewshire, Inverclyde, Glasgow, and also across much of Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galloway, and our highs here, 13-14 degrees Celsius. So into Sunday, thicker cloud, especially across northern and eastern areas. Possibility of a few very light drizzly showers, mainly for us around parts of the Inner Hebrides, but again across southwestern parts, a little bit of brightness, and actually feeling a bit warmer on Sunday, highs 15 to 16 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And that's all from us tonight.
Have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Good night.